Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Tom Duesterberg, Senior Fellow at the Hudson Institute, and welcome to this video conference sponsored by the Hudson Institute and by the Manufacturing Policy Initiative of the O'Neill School of Public and Environmental Affairs at Indiana University. Pleased to introduce Sridhar Kota, who's the Herrick Professor of Engineering, Professor of Mechanical Engineering at the University of Michigan, and the founding executive director of MF Foresight, the Alliance for Global Manufacturing Foresight, a national consortium on emerging technologies and advanced manufacturing.
Thanks, Tom. Let me begin by first acknowledging my co-author, Tom Mahoney, Associate Director of M Foresight, for all his work in preparing our paper. So this pandemic has revealed the weakness, dependency, and lack of resiliency in U.S. industrial base. The pandemic is new, but the weakness is not. Several reports in the past 3 decades highlighted the weakness, but the policymakers ignored them, believing that the free market will take care. It hasn't. Your topic, that how will the COVID-19 change manufacturing and technology supply chains? My response is nothing will change because of COVID-19, unless the federal government develops and implements a national strategy and makes long-term investments. It's not about reshoring lost industries. It's about rebuilding our lost capabilities. Decades of offshore manufacturing have eroded our industrial commons. That is, diminished our capacity to innovate by eroding engineering skills, manufacturing know-how, and supply chains. These skills and know-how are what we used to call American ingenuity. In too many industries, we have lost those capabilities. So innovation is about making new products and new processes at scale by leveraging our discoveries and inventions. By that definition, we have not done much innovation in hardware technologies in the past 3 decades. Because the tight linkages between actual production and new product innovations have been lost, the long-held strategy to invent here, manufacture there is fast becoming innovate there, manufacture there. The United States may still be one of the most inventive countries, but no longer the most innovative, at least in hardware. Think of innovation cycle as a baseball diamond. Our investment in basic research gets us to the first base with promising discoveries and inventions. A small fraction of those inventions transition to the second base to create working prototypes. A subset of those move to pilot production, the third base, and full volume production back at the home base. We haven't completed the cycle when it comes to hardware in decades. But again, thanks to federal funding, we're still best in the world when it comes to scientific discoveries and inventions. We created millions of jobs in other countries, manufacturing products that were largely invented in the United States, such as flat panel displays, smartphones, solar cells, lithium-ion batteries, and drones. We are creating knowledge, but not national wealth, not national security, and certainly not health security. We are willingly and routinely giving away our IP to other countries in emerging technologies now because we no longer have the engineering skills or the manufacturing know-how to scale. None of the 150 hardware startups from MIT last decade scaled in this country due to lack of manufacturing know-how, infrastructure, and suppliers. Of those that scaled, 70% scaled in China. See, most product and process innovations happen when we get to the third base, and the wealth creation happens when we get to the home base. But we don't get past the second base. No wonder we have difficulty winning. So again, it's not the high wages, not taxes, not trade, not regulations. It's not the automation that brought us to this place. Think Germany, Japan, and South Korea for a moment. These advanced nations have strong manufacturing and innovation ecosystems. They have higher wages, they have higher taxes, they have strict regulations, they have higher energy costs, and significantly higher levels of automation compared to the US. They have all weathered China's competition far better than us. So what is their secret? Their companies have longer term priorities, and they value all stakeholders, not just shareholders like American multinationals do. And their government invests 4 to 8 times more than the United States in translational R&D, in engineering and manufacturing R&D. We have 58 manufacturing programs across 11 federal agencies. All of them are relatively small, and uncoordinated. And they have not achieved the nationwide systemic strategic approach needed to restore American manufacturing competitiveness. And arguably, they actually hurt progress by giving the impression that the problems are already being addressed. Currently, there's no federal agency that has the health of the nation's manufacturing at its primary mission. If not China 2025, this pandemic should wake us up to create a new agency in the federal government with the sole focus to rebuild our lost capabilities and ensure that we lead the world again in key industries that are critical to national security, national wealth, and health security. But federal government intervention to build industrial base, that's a preposterous idea. That's industrial policy. That's unthinkable. I don't think so. Of all the manufacturing sectors, the only sector where the US shows trade surplus is in aerospace. Think about it, government has always played a major role in this sector. We may not like to admit it, but we've always had an industrial policy in aerospace. Government invests in basic research, in translational research, in development, in demonstration, in deployment, and in procurement, making sure our companies complete the innovation cycle and win, and they do, no matter who is in the White House. Every president helps this industry, even in marketing and sales, when they visit other countries. That is an industrial policy that's working, and we must apply such policy to other sectors like semiconductors, pharmaceuticals, battery storage, electric vehicles, Industry 4.0, and in foundational capabilities like machine tools. So we outlined in our paper a 6-point plan what this new agency should focus on. But let me just say one thing. None of that will work unless we have legislation that says if the intellectual property for a product or a process is developed based on federal funded R&D, taxpayer dollars, then that product or process must be manufactured substantially in the United States, at least 75% value added in the United States without any exceptions or waivers. Without such legislation, we will continue to watch other countries pick our winners, as they have been doing it for a while. And finally, I just want to leave with 3 points. If this pandemic was a war, we would not be having this luxury to have this meeting. It would be too late. If we, number one, if we have the collective will to shift the paradigm of shareholder primacy, we could win the next war. Number two, Congress need to stop spending. They need to start investing. If you invest, you tend to focus on a return on investment. Doing more of the same somehow is not going to give us a different result. And finally, I want to say this confusion between science and engineering, that's uniquely American. Surely we must continue to invest and double down on our investments in science. But if we ever care to get past the first base, we need to invest in engineering to rebuild that American ingenuity. And finally, Churchill probably really did not say it, but I'm reminded of the quote: "We can always count on Americans to do the right thing after they tried everything else." I think now is the time to do the right thing.